in Surah Al-Tawbah, Allah says, إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها, to the end. This is about zakat or about sadaqah?
Type question says, with regards to the 9th chapter of the Quran, Surah Tawbah, when Allah says that the sadaqat are only for, and then He goes on to mention, subhanahu wa ta'ala, 8 classes: the poor, the indigent, those who work, administer it, slaves, fi sabilillah, etc. Is this talking about zakah or is it talking about sadaqah? We say that sometimes the word sadaqah is used to apply to zakah, and other times it's mentioned specifically and exclusively. Like the word Muslim and mu'min. We say be merciful to the believers. Don't hurt the believers, don't harm the believers. And these people, they are Muslims. We don't know what's in their hearts, what's in their breasts, but they say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, they make salah, they give zakah, I made hajj with the brother, I fasted with the brother, I don't know what he believes in his heart. But we say he's a believer, i.e. when the word believer is mentioned, it includes believer and Muslim. When the word Muslim is mentioned, it can mean what? This or that. But if they're mentioned together, then it has a specific depiction. So the word sadaqah here is talking about zakah, the fard zakah. But at the same time, it's also a type of spending. And it's also a type of truth, a manifestation of what you have in your heart. As the Prophet ﷺ said, وَالصَّدَقَةُ بُرْهَانٌ. He said charity is a proof. It's a proof. I said real people do what? Real things. And Allah knows best. Follow.
The hadith that you were giving when you were giving the points of performing ihsan with your body, and you mentioned the camel. You mentioned the camel. I'm not sure if I heard the whole hadith or part of it, or the what. If you don't mind just repeating that.
The concept of a person having two things. A person having a riding beast, a camel, dabba, linguistically meaning any moving thing. But here it's talking about a camel. It's talking about a camel. So a person has a camel, but they can't put their goods and their valuables on top of the camel. They're not strong enough. Or holding the muzzle of the camel, whatever the case may be. Or a person has a camel, but the camel has become lame and old, weak, can't move anymore. So you give him a ride on yours. Alhamdulillah. Any questions from the sisters? Now is the time. And if not, we'll just take them from the brothers, inshallah. No problem.
I have a question, but it's a little off topic.
No problem.
There's a new movement in this country as far as legalizing marijuana, right? Now, marijuana has there's two parts of it. There's a part of it called THC, that it alters your mind, it gets you high. And then there's a part of it called CBD, which is cannabis oil. It's the medicinal part. It doesn't affect your mental at all. And there are companies out there that there's a company called CBD, cannabis science. It only deals with the medicinal part, the CBD part. The CBD part helps you with seizures. Like there was a little girl who used to have about 30 seizures a day, and they started giving her CBD in a syrup form, and it went down to 3 seizures a month. Is that something that is halal to invest in?
Tell you. The question says, regarding a new movement in this country, and that is medicinal marijuana. Then the questioner, Allah bless him, he mentions many facts or beneficial pieces of information regarding the different types of marijuana, THC, CBD, etc. And some of the effects, positive, that are shown upon people who have been administered medicinal marijuana with regards to seizures, etc. So, is it permissible for a Muslim to invest in certain companies that specifically deal with the medicinal healing aspects of the marijuana, etc.? We say that there are pills that people can buy over the counter or with prescription that I would advise not to be taken. And somebody may say are haram. And there are certain types or usages or ways of dealing with marijuana in which somebody will say is halal and would advise to take. Different types: smoking marijuana, vaporizing marijuana, oil, pills, cookies, brownies. The list goes on. All different types of ways. The point is, al-Dabit al-Kulli, the main rule here, the axis, is intoxication. And secondly is medical necessity. Intoxication and medical necessity. That which gets you high, whatever word you use, buzz, stone, twisted, whatever you say. It gets you high, it alters your mental state for the pleasure of leisure, or the purpose of leisure, or spirituality. You're shocked if you read about the history of marijuana and its use in spiritual, ritualistic practices. Until there were certain people that came, they took it, and they made it into a commercial, recreational drug. But you actually read about certain ancient civilizations, they never used marijuana as just to get high. It was a means of spiritual worship. But that's not what we want to get into right now. What's important is to get high. That which gets you high. You drink it, you smoke it, you snort it, you sniff it, you inject it. Whatever way you put it into your body and it gets you high. Whether it's a pill, whether it's a blunt, whatever you want to call it, it's haram in Islam. And then we have that which may be haram in Islam, a pill, a leaf, a bush, a needle, but there may be an instance in which there's a necessity, an issue of life and death, or, if not life and death, of extreme pain and agony and major suffering. Everybody clear on this? Regardless of what the matter is, marijuana has nothing to do with these two main principles. But the people, they put them in those main principles and they don't belong there. Islam prohibits anything that is an intoxicant, whether it's in a pill or whether it's rolled up into a spliff. It doesn't matter. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this or not? It's haram. It's shukran. Good. Thank you, Akhi. Islam prohibits anything that prohibits you from thinking properly. That puts a khimar on your brain. That's what I call a khamar. Covers your head. Whatever that thing is. But the problem that the people have made, they've made a problem by saying medicinal marijuana is haram because it's marijuana. Of course. But this pill, 500 milligram pill, or higher than that, or lower than that, that's what? That's halal. Who said that's halal? Who said that? There you go. Everybody understand this? And then it gets into politics and all the other stuff with regards to the FDA and all of that. So that's why you stick with the main two principles. If something gets you intoxicated, it's haram. If something gets you intoxicated but it's a necessity, then it could possibly be used and administered in certain ways and made what? Halal, based off of that necessity. When the Prophet ﷺ, he allowed his companions to wear garments of silk because of a major skin condition that they had. And it's haram, not cause it's mixture. Oh, okay, yes. The concept of pure silk is haram for men. But in that time, he gave them the ability to what? To wear it. Because a life of death wasn't life and death. Having shaved skins, this and that is not a life of what? It's not life or death. It's not having 30 seizures in the daytime. Listen to the fiqh. It's a world of a difference. Of when a person having a chronic damage to their nervous system. Which is worse? Everybody clear on this or not? Without a question. So therefore, the issue of medicinal marijuana is no different than any other or modern issue of medical science. It has to be studied. It has to be looked at and put on the table transparently. Transparently. That which is a need, that which isn't a need. CBD, THC. Smoking it, vaporizing it. You can't broad brush every single issue unless you're willing to say that all of these pills and these needles are also haram as well because they cause damage, they cause intoxication, they form habits, and this goes on. So we're going to do one or two things, guys. Everything that causes intoxication and takes away the type of pain is absolutely haram. Or we're going to say certain things are permissible in certain instances. And it has nothing to do with green, white, blue, or yellow. Everybody clear on this or not? The problem is us making a difference between the things. If it's in a green leaf, then it's automatically haram. A big fat blue pill, then it's what? Everybody clear on this? It doesn't work like that, guys. It doesn't what? It doesn't work like that. And if it's permissible to take, if it's permissible to be given, then it's permissible for a person to invest his wealth in it. Everybody clear on this? So me personally, you clear? The clarity is that this is going to be relative and subjective. If a person considers it to be permissible to have medicinal marijuana, then you can invest in a company.
It's not marijuana. It's not smokable. It's not. You can't smoke CBD.
The concept of the technical terms, CBD, THC, smoking it, the thing that everybody can understand and come together is what? Is the word what? Marijuana. Hadha huwa. Everybody clear this? Marijuana. That's what I mean by that. The different strands of it, the different types. So oils, crystal clear, as you mentioned, CBD, crystal clear. But at the end of the day, it's coming from weed. That's the thing that's in the people's heads and on their minds, is that it's weed. Whether you vaporize it or whether you what?
Eat it, chew it.
Hadha huwa. Clear on that? So, yeah, I would advise you to, Allahu Alam, if you get an opportunity, inshallah, perhaps you can read some of the different medical journals upon which there's fatwa from Kibar Ahl al-Ilm with regards to the issue. If you ask me, my humble personal opinion is what I just told you. If it's a necessity, and if it's properly administered in the right way, and it doesn't cause that major harm to the body, then it's no different than any other type of medicine.
It's like investing in Pfizer or something like that.
Whatever that thing is, if it's permissible and it isn't harmful to the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everybody turn this or not? I didn't want to just give you a simple basic answer, yes or no. For several reasons. For what? For several reasons. Clear this? Inshallah ta'ala. I've read on the issue. I know people that have all types of problems and issues that haven't taken medicinal marijuana. I spoke with them personally. I have a personal reservation and opinion on the issue. But I want to give you something that's better and easier for you to make your own decision. Inshallah ta'ala. Hopefully that's clear, huh? Sheikh, Bismillah.
I'm sure, Sheikh, that you're familiar with the hadith that the Prophet says that the time would come where one man would be responsible for so many women. Having said that, I wanted to see by a show of hands who are the brothers that are here that are not married. I have women that I'm responsible for, and I want to see. The second, more fundamental question that I have, Sheikh Mufti, and you talked about contemporary issues. The brother brought up an excellent point, about something that's contemporary. One of the things that I'm seeing, and I don't want to be an oppressor. Just yesterday, I saw the sisters like in force, look like, and I know many of them are good sisters. I saw them looking like Farrakhan's community. And when I saw the picture, the first question that I asked myself was, where's the men? Where's the men? There are movements that are moving now, and I wanted to ask you if I'm wrong, or are we misdirecting ourselves in terms of empowering women without our men? I don't know of an instance in the past with the Sahabiyats that they were out like in full force, that they were out before the men. I mean, Allah said in the Quran, "Al-rijala qawwamuna ala nisa." I see myself, and I say to my wife is an intelligent person. She helps me write and this and that. But I don't want my wife on the battlefield, on the front line with contemporary issues. If somebody called my house, I don't even want them to hear my wife's voice. Am I too oppressive on the women? Or are we going beyond the boundaries?
Okay. Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh, for the beneficial question, which we'll try to summarize with regarding the concept of contemporary issues, modern day issues, one may say feminism, chauvinism, etc. Women being on the forefront of the battlefield, doing things, having posts, positions, and responsibilities that were traditionally held by men. Is this a sunnah? Is this a Farrakhan thing? Is there such thing as having too much jealousy? I don't want to hear my wife's voice, so on and so forth. Men being in charge and control of women, so on and so forth. I would humbly say that the issue, like many things that we say, it has to be detail. You gotta give detail. There are certain things which is haram for a woman to be in the forefront. And there are certain things which is mandatory for a woman to be in the forefront. And there are other things in which it's not necessarily mandatory, but depending on the need. Depending on the need. The job has to get done. May the best man win. The best, most qualified person for this job is the one who takes the job, man or woman. It depends. So there's certain things that the men are supposed to do, but the men aren't there. Or the men are there, but as if they aren't there. They're there, but as if they aren't there. They don't have the skills. They don't have the know-how. They don't have the money. They're not punctual. They're not reliable. They don't have the backbone to do it. They don't have the skills, the moving and the shaking. This is a reality. I know different masjids in America, outside of America, certain centers, in which the one who runs the center, he says to me, he says, anything that I want done, I want it to be right and professional, clean, nice. He says, I ask the sisters in the community. He says, I don't even go to the brothers at all. He says, my whole dawah panel is nothing but women. Because I know they're going to be on time. They're going to do this, they're going to do that. It's not going to be excuses. I forgot, I can't. Subhanallah, inshallah, qadarullah. So this is one issue here. But does that mean that these sisters are now have the ability to do things that Allah and His Messenger said that they cannot do? Doesn't mean that unless it's a necessity. Everybody clear on this? Then we have the concept of certain things which are cultural norms and not necessarily Islamic injunctions. Culturally, a man does not allow another man to know his wife's first name. Culturally, a man does not allow another man to hear his wife's voice. Culturally, a man does not marry a woman that was previously married. Culturally, a person doesn't marry outside of his or her race, etc. These are cultural norms, and they don't necessarily mean that Allah and His Messenger have legislated them. Doesn't mean that. It can be totally fine for a woman to be working here, or sister to do this or say this. It can be totally fine. Let's say hypothetical, for me to see a brother and his wife say, Assalamu alaikum, how are you guys doing? Alhamdulillah. I watched the video last night, it was very beneficial, may Allah bless you. Alhamdulillah, have a good day. But culturally, that could be an absolute no-no. Absolutely. Your wife, or my wife should be the biggest fan of Hadith Disciple. Watch every video. But if she saw you walking down the street, don't say anything to him. Not because it's haram, but because what? Culture. So, how do I know when it's cultural rule and when it's an Islamic rule? Unless I have fiqh fi deen. And oftentimes we become confused because we don't have the proper knowledge, and we either do one or two things. Blindly copycat someone else's culture, blindly attach ourselves to our culture, or abandon our culture, abandoning this person's culture without the proper fiqh, and we're just stuck in the middle without no rules. Because there are rules to life. You can govern your life through culture, or you can govern your life through religion. Well, how do that? It's bad when a person has what? Neither of the two. Everybody on this? Person has neither of the two. So it has to be a detail, brothers and sisters. Are there brothers who are oppressive to women? Without a question. I know many of them. Are there brothers who overstep their boundaries as qawamun? Without a question. Are there sisters and brothers and sisters? We won't take no comments on this. Brothers or sisters, we're not going to take no comments on this one. Are there sisters who overstep their boundaries as women? Without a question. But there's a reason why. It's a reason why. Oftentimes the culture is weak. So the offensive coordinator has to make those decisions that the coach doesn't have the ability to make. Oftentimes the offensive coordinator is weak, so the coach has to do things that the offensive coordinator would normally do. But if everyone was doing their position, no one's perfect of course, but actually basically proficient, I don't think there will be too much overstepping of the boundaries. You have more than enough stuff to worry about, Yahi. You gotta work, you gotta pay bills, pay rent, you gotta do this, you gotta go to the masjid. You have a million things to do to make sure that your family is safe and sound and comfortable. I don't think you have any time to micromanage what your wife is doing, right or wrong, Abu Saeed. And a woman, a sister who's a homemaker, I'm sure from the time you wake up until you go to sleep, there are a million things to do for yourself, for your husband, for your children, for your household, for your salat, for your dhikr. You have no time to try to micromanage what your husband is doing. Honestly, I don't see where you find the time. Certain brothers, they go here, they do this, they say, where do you find the time? 24 hours is not enough. I have this, I have that, a million things to do. I don't have time to be worrying about and micromanaging. Listen to the words that I mentioned. I didn't say give advice, enjoying the good, forbid the evil. I didn't say take the reins when the reins need to be taken. I said micromanage. In which a person is excessively just, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like this, like this, like that. No, it has to be done like this. Where do you find the time if you're doing your responsibility? So if everyone knows their role and seeks Allah's help in playing that role, then bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, there's not going to be enough time for the roles to be transgressed. And if there is a transgression of the role, it's easier to minimize it. A small leak in a roof, you can pinpoint it, put a bucket under it, fix it. Then a whole roof that's what? Torn to pieces. So this is my advice on the situation. Certain things that men cannot do and should not do. Certain things women cannot do and should not do. And there's certain things which are interchangeable and they're not haram, but it's based off of culture. People overseas, Saudi Arabia, this is how they do things. It doesn't mean that's how things are done in Elizabeth, New Jersey. If it's based off of Kitab and Sunnah, then the Saudi culture has to be applied to Elizabeth, New Jersey. And if it's not based off of Kitab and Sunnah, then they have their way and we what? Have ours. And it isn't for us to force our way upon them, nor for them to what? Everybody clear on this? Shaykh Ibn Uthaymin, rahimahullah, when he was asked about the topic of looking for the moon, Sumu li ru'yatihi wa aftiru li ru'yatihi. Fast when you see the moon, break your fast when you see the moon. Now, and he was asked about, is it permissible, is it correct for us to have a universal sighting, a global sighting, in which if the moon is spotted in Pakistan, then the Muslims in New York City have to fast. If the moon is spotted in South Africa, then the Muslims in Elizabeth, New Jersey have to fast. The Shaykh Rahimahullah Ta'ala, he said no. He said everyone has to look for the moon themselves and should base their fasting, the commencing of it and the stopping of it based off of what they look for. He says, why is this? He says because when people are fasting in Saudi Arabia, they're not fasting where? In America. When Muslims in America are fasting, people in Saudi Arabia are eating and drinking and having sexual intercourse. So how can we say they have to follow them to the T and their time zones are totally what? Different. And the same applies where? Culturally. Unless it's something that's based off of a what? Clear as day. Clear as day. This is a ruling. A woman is not allowed to go here. She's not allowed to shake this person. Clear as day. If it's not based off of the clear-cut Kitab and Sunnah, then there's nothing wrong with it. But it's a cultural norm. That's all it is, and it remains like that. Everybody clear on this? So we have to look at the time. You have to look at the place. You have to look at the environment in which we live. Certain things we say yes. Certain things we say no. Certain things me and you may differ. And we say to each other, we agree to disagree. Respectfully. Respectfully. This is your way. You have your way of looking at it. It's my way. I have my way. I don't use it at all. I think it's khata if you do the janazahs like that. But he's basing it off of what? Something. And the issue is not clearly cut off of Kitab and Sunnah. I have to what? Respect him as a brother. Everybody clear on this? So when we don't have these principles, and we don't have the proper knowledge, and when we have other elements, which we're not going to get into right now, we have the situation called America, in which is different groups of Muslims, different races, different ages, different classes, different Islamic orientations. And it's a problem. The last thing I wanted to say to you, Shaykh, is that Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions that there's never been a time in which the people have accepted 101% falsehood. He said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create the human being to accept absolute falsehood. As if Ibn Qayyim said, it is out of the power of the human to accept absolute falsehood. Impossible. He says there has to be some truth mixed in that falsehood. And there's no way the human being is just going to cause harm to himself like that. And he knows that it's absolute harm. Even if the good and the truth is of a what? Low percentage. But it's what? Has to be some type of good in it. So therefore, when we talk about movements in America, we have this movement, we have that movement, we have this group, we have these people, this scholar, these. Islam is like this. No, Islam is like that. This is what the Muslims should focus on. This is how the Muslims should dress. This is how the Muslims should make money. The Muslims should get jobs. The Muslims shouldn't have jobs, etc. Don't think that every single movement, it was 101% absolute false. No. There were many movements, rather every movement has some type of what? Good in it. But the problem is when it's mixed with falsehood. The problem is when the falsehood totally dominates the good, or when the concepts are mixed and confused. So when you talk about movements in America, women do this, they look like this, they have these jobs, it doesn't mean that that was all what? Doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean it was all what? Doesn't mean that. Nor does it mean that this movement that has come, that has this amount of good, and this principle, and this clarity, everything that it's promoting and supporting is what? Positive. Doesn't mean that at all. It's Islam, religion, faith, and it's also culture and society. And all three things have to be taken into consideration for it to be a success. And that's what the Prophet's mission was. Everything he didn't tell his companions to stay away from. He didn't abolish everything from their culture and their society. Certain things he did, yes. Certain things he adjusted. Certain things he augmented. And many things he what? He let them be. Because he knew they could not do without it. Or it took 23 years for it to be what? Adjusted. So all of these things have to be taken into consideration, brothers. We're talking about, can a sister be on the board of the masjid? Can a sister be a speaker at a conference? Huh? Can a sister be a leader? Can a Muslim be in the government? Can a Muslim be a mayor? We have to take all of these things what? Into consideration. And if we don't, then we're going to have what we have today. Lakum dinukum waliy din. You have your way, I have my way. I don't support you, you don't support me. Even though we live in one city. Even though there's one common oppressor that has oppressed us all and is going to oppress us all. May Allah help us all. Next question says, Assalamu alaikum. Excellent talk, mashallah. May Allah bless you, ameen. My question is off topic. Baraka Ayman was the foster mother of the Prophet ﷺ. She later married Zayd bin Haditha, but there was a great age difference. Can you enlighten us on the timeline because it is unclear? Jazakallahu khairan. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you as well. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you in both worlds. I'm not absolutely clear on what is meant by the question. The concept of Zayd bin Haditha, the lifespan, the age difference, or the concept of the ruling of marrying someone who's really older than you or really younger than you in Islam. So it's not absolutely clear on exactly what's meant here by this question. It says, can you enlighten us on the timeline because it is unclear. The seerah story, the story of the seerah concerning Zayd bin Haditha, I don't know exactly what she means. So inshallah, she can write it clearer. And if there's no time, inshallah, she can email us. And we'll take our time to give you the full answer based off of the clarity of the question, inshallah ta'ala. I'm so sorry. Next question says, what was the Arabic term for the last 2 points? Meaning, ultimate love. We said, ghayatul hubb. I believe the word Ibn Qayyim mentions, ghayatul hubb. Ghayatul hubb. Ultimate love. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
Yes, in regards to education. Some of us brothers feel as though, I met brothers, oh, you shouldn't go to these Catholic universities. But it's important that we do become educated and send our children to these secular knowledge understandings. However, we do know that haram things may happen. We got to safeguard ourselves for that. Can you what's the Islamic ruling on education and our women as well as children become educated and then put in a position of power? to help the Islamic community on a big scale.
Questions regarding education or formal education, secular education. Some people say don't send your children to Catholic schools. It's haram things in the schools, haram things in college. Muslims should be empowered, Muslims, etc. The best way that I can answer this question, Sheikh, is this right here. Can you hear me? Can the sisters hear me? Not too well, right? So if I read 1,000 books in Medina and sat with 1,000 scholars and had a PhD in the highest level of education, I was there for 20, 25, 30 years. You can't benefit from my words. You can't learn anything from me without what? Technology. And technology is based off of religious or secular knowledge.
Secular.
Education.
What did I read from? iPad Pro. That's based off of what?
20-inch.
Technology. I recorded a lecture. The people in Australia and Canada and Karachi and all over the world are going to listen to a Hadith disciple based off of what? Technology. So technology and the religion go what? Hand in hand. And the one who wishes to separate the religion from everything else in life, no, that's not proper. That's improper, 101%. Based off of what? Technology. The engineer, the sound engineer, and the Islamic scholar have to work what? Hand in hand. The politician, the culinary chef, everyone has to work what?
Hand in hand.
How are the Muslims going to get this education, get this knowledge? How are we going to establish our own? How can we remove ourselves from the haram unless we ourselves have what? Have our own. So, Brother Noor, mashallah, you have a janazah project, right? Now, I'm not going to put you on the spot 100%, just a little bit though, okay? This is important. This is an important lesson here, all right? So, you don't have to answer every question. I'm going to try to help you out, all right? Been there now. Just general answer. For you to Islamify the janazah services, that's the first step, to Islamify them from kufr and shirk, polytheistic practices, let alone for you to sunnify the janazah services from the bid'ah that Muslims practice. Do you have to go through difficulties, loops? Are there, you don't have to answer this question specifically, I want to say as if certain things you may have to pay and certain licenses and certifications and things that you have to go through, which may not necessarily be the most permissible thing in order for the janazah services to be what? Islamified and sunnified. It's a necessity. It's a necessity. It's a necessity. So therefore, for the community to thrive and to prosper, we need Islamic knowledge. We need lawyers, doctors, we need security, we need bankers, financiers, we need engineers, we need fashion, we need everything. Because the microphone that I'm speaking with, the tablet that I'm reading from, the carpet that you're sitting on, the chair, it's all made by a person of a skill. So for the one to say that don't send your children to Catholic schools, don't go to college, everything's haram, this and that person is not living in a realistic world. And as if that person wishes to keep the Muslims behind and regressed. Waliyadu billah. And Allah knows best. Fadal.
How can a person reach ihsan? What forms of act can you attain or help or work towards in order to reach ihsan with Allah?
As far as the first type of ihsan, the ihsan with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how do you reach it? I would say the first step is to get to know who Allah is, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah has certainly acquainted Himself with His slaves in the Quran al-Kareem and in the authentic Hadith. One of the greatest topics of the Quran al-Kareem and a large part of the Quran is speaking about Allah's names, His attributes, and His actions. His names, His attributes, and His actions. You find this from Surah Al-Fatiha all the way to Surah Al-Nas. Allah talks about who He is, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one of the ways of getting to this level of worshiping Him as if you see Him is to know who is Allah and what is Allah. Why does Allah, or why should He be loved and respected and feared and worshipped and obeyed? So that's the first step. After that, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, is to practice and to actualize Allah's Asma'ul Husna. The Prophet ﷺ, he says that Allah has 100 names except one, meaning 99 names. Man ahsaha dakhala al-jannah. He says, he who makes ihsa will enter paradise. The word ihsa linguistically means counts them, who knows them. But it's much more than just knowing Allah's 99 names. But it is to take those 99 names and to worship Him based upon those names and to invoke Him and beseech Him through those names. So you know Allah Azza wa Jalla is a Raqib, so you be wary. You know Allah Azza wa Jalla is a Sami' al-Basir. He sees and He hears everything. So you get stuck, you get held up in the airport, don't get upset. Don't become disgruntled. Allah sees what's happening. He knows that you didn't do anything. He knows that you didn't make this crime. He knows that you're not about no nonsense. Allah sees it. Just be patient. وَهَكَذَا. Allah, He talks about Himself. He answers the call. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ He says, He huwa al-muttar. The one who's in a state of, he's compelled. Tight situation. Allah sees. Allah knows. So worship Allah based off of those asma al-husna and based off of those sifat. Number 3, bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, is to make constant dua for Allah to strengthen your heart and to make your heart firm and to give you thabat. And to turn your heart towards His obedience subhanahu wa ta'ala in your sujood, as the Prophet ﷺ used to do. Last but not least, from the ways of al-ihsan, I would say, is to take the Quranic guidance regarding the worthlessness of this world and the expensiveness of the hereafter. The Quranic guidance about this dunya and about the afterlife. Hopefully that'll help you out to realize on a daily basis, what's my purpose in life? What is good? What's bad? What's the reward? What's the punishment? What am I striving for? And Allah knows best.
Sheikh, one quick question.
Tfaddal.
What do you advise? So there's a sister who has a teaching degree, and her husband prefers for her to use it in an Islamic school. But the sister also is considering public school because things like pension and other benefits. So what do you advise for the situation? So the husband recommends...
Clear, crystal clear. Jazakallah khairan. With regards to a sister who has a teaching degree, she has the ability to be a professional teacher. Her husband wants to work in an Islamic school, and she wishes to work in a public school for other reasons, whether it's pension, whether it's etc. The different benefits that come from working for the government, etc., etc. Whether it's for the government or not, you get the point. I would say that it depends on the Islamic school and what level of professionalism the Islamic school has. There's certain Islamic schools that are very professional, certified, and there are other Islamic schools which are very unprofessional, and they lack in certain basic concepts of Islam and the dunya, unfortunately. So a sister may say, you can't expect me to work in this school. The water isn't running, the roof is leaking. They are late when it comes to paying the teachers. I work at a school for 30, 40 years and I walk away with nothing. Jazakallah khairan. You can't really expect your wife to do that. And at the same time, a husband can't necessarily, or a wife can't necessarily expect her husband to allow her to go into a place in which is widespread corruption and evil. Muslims are being disrespected. Muslims are being attacked, and the list goes on. So once more, it depends on the place. What's the public school that she wants to teach in? And what's the Islamic school that she refuses to teach in? If there's something which is good, it's not perfect. The public school is better, but the Islamic school isn't too bad. It is not too shabby. It's just a few things that you'll miss out on, which you can, make up in other ways. Then allows no doubt work in the Islamic school. Help the Muslims, support the Muslims. But if it's something in which is like an elephant on an ant on a seesaw, go with the public school, because what are we to do? But being mindful of Allah's rules, being mindful of professionalism, of shyness, proper hijab, and the list goes on. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He mentions in the Quran, He says, وَلَا تَنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنْ. He says, don't marry polytheist women until they believe. وَلَا أَمَةٌ مُؤْمِنَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن مُشْرِكَةٍ وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَتْكُمْ. And a believing slave is better than a polytheist slave, even if it amazes you or she amazes you. وَلَا تُنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكِينَ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنُوا. Allah says, do not allow the polytheist men to marry the believing women until they believe. وَلَا عَبْدٌ مُؤْمِنٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن مُشْرِكٍ وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَكُمْ. Allah says, and a believing servant is more pleasing, is better than a disbelieving polytheistic servant, even if you're amazed by them. And Allah says, and they call to the hellfire. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He calls to paradise, and He calls to forgiveness. بِإِذْنِهِ. with his permission, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it depends on the situation. If a person can do without 20%, 25%, la best. 75% of my needs and wants are in Islamic school, pay it. It's better. But it's an issue which is the opposite. I'm only get 25% of what I need and deserve and what I want out of my teaching, and 75% is missing in the public schools, then we may say what? The exact opposite. With the proper practice of Islam. Hijab, unnecessary flirting, unnecessary sitting and laughing and talking and things like this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Do we have time?
I just want to follow up on that because I'm a little bit conflicted about it. Because you said she might teach at a school, run down conditions, and at the end they'll just take Jazakallah. You know, but I'm thinking to myself, maybe I'm wrong. The benefit comes in the akhirah. So if your niyat is right and you do it.
Tayyib. Question says, clear. With regards to following up, the benefit comes in hereafter, even if the place is run down, etc. When we talk about organized studies, if everything is not going to be based off of the hereafter, it can't be. That's why you go to school. If everything was absolutely 101% spiritual, there's no need to go where? To school. Rather, there's some non-Muslims who say that people shouldn't go to schools. What do you need out of a school? What do you get out of a school? If I asked you what you do for a living, when's the last time you used algebra? What would you say? This is a reality. I would say, what do you use algebra on a daily basis? You work. Allah gives you, alhamdulillah, you're comfortable, but you don't what? But yet and still you have to go to this what? Formal school. So everything is not just always based off of that. You understand what I'm saying to you? It's not that simple, huh? So the concept of رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Allah says that the believers, they say, oh our Lord, give us good in this life and good in the hereafter, and save us from the fire of hell. So the hereafter is always supposed to be what? 2 verses 1. But it's not what? 3 and 0. Right, on this? وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا, Allah says. Don't forget the portion of the what? Worldly life. So it has to be a balance. It has to be a what? A balance. So a person teaching and working, a person having some type of retirement plan or pension, this and that, these are realities of life. And the simplicity and the ease of life of then is not like how it is what? Today. Everybody clear on this? So this is a very important concept here. The school is making money. They take tuition from the parents. They have people who give endowments, who donate. And they expect the teachers to teach what? Fi sabilillah. Can't work like that because you're in your pockets getting fi sabilillah or not, Nuruddin? Getting paid. But I'm to work what? Doesn't work like that. And if everyone's going fi sabilillah, we're sitting in the masjid, we're going over the basics, how to read, how to write, how to count, sufficient, alas. But this is a formal institution in which there's financial responsibilities. And a person works for years and is loyal to your school and to your establishment. And you get the bigger slice and piece of the pie. And at the end of the day, you send him home with Jazakallah khairan. That is Islamically unacceptable. So we'll stop here. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you very much for your time, for your attention, for your participation. Allah Azza wa Jalla surely knows best.